Okay, welcome back to the Operators Pod. Today we have a segment with Numeral. We're going to talk sales tax. I know it's the most exciting topic in e-commerce, but it's actually pretty important, especially if you ever consider selling your company. You're going to want to stick around for this one. And then we're going to get into last week's event. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about just like running our companies right now. How did Memorial Day do? If you are curious to see how you did compared to us, we're going to get into all this stuff. And as always, we have great sponsors on this show. You need to hear from them. They are like, we all use these companies. So they are paying for this to happen. They cover all of our costs. It's a wonderful relationship. We like using them. Fulfill, Northbeam, Postscript, Rich Panel, and Saris. They're great guys too. We just hung out with a couple of them in LA. So just huge shout out to the sponsors. Let's get into this episode.
Fulfill ad. Let's go. The big pink elephant in the room is the economic climate. No one knows what's happening. We're heading into a tough period for e-commerce brands. Mike shared this on LinkedIn recently. Brands are looking inward, figuring out how to save money while improving their operations and making them more efficient. If you want to cut spending and drive efficiency, use Fulfill. You don't need 5 different tools. So if you're looking to consolidate SaaS, it's a proven, awesome service for your operations. You can use Fulfill. If you're looking to use more AI in operations and accounting, you can use Fulfill. If your EIP is crippling your business, use Fulfill. What is most crucial for every brand out there is to cut costs. I talk about it many times. NetSuite's overpriced. It costs too much to maintain, and they will screw you on a renewal. If you're using NetSuite, you should absolutely move to Fulfill. I didn't even look at NetSuite. I've been on Fulfill for 5 years. It is more efficient when it comes to order management, warehouse management. We do resource planning in there. We do our accounting in there now. They helped us set up a warehouse, a factory, everything else. So thank you, Fulfill. It's been a great partner. Thank you for sponsoring the podcast. And saving money is now even more important than it's ever been. You should look at Fulfill. They can hopefully save you money. Goodbye.
It was great to have all of you guys in LA last week. Hope you enjoyed it.
Dude, the offices are sick, Jason.
Thanks, man. It's
It doesn't suck.
Good vibes. Good vibes. The only thing I would say is it's kind of big, and we do have to figure out like ways to make it more lively. So I'm looking for suggestions to make it a little more lively here, like certain times a day. You know?
Oh, it's simple, dude. It's super simple. Just double the size of your company and hire more people.
No.
No, Jason.
Have you considered jugglers?
Yeah, you should have like a 1-day a week co-working thing. You should let people let the audience, other brands.
Dude, we need to have a show that's just how Jason should spend his money.
Exactly.
Like just helping Hexclad spend the money.
No, helping us be better. I actually really like that idea. I do like that idea. We have so much space, right? Like people can just show up. Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great time to be here. The new office, like the vibes are great. People are excited. Memorial Day crushed. Like I'm shocked. Like we were sending texts around on Monday, and I was really shocked that we like beat our projection by 80%. And
what?
This is not.
You guys just crush holidays,
honestly, this
Jason.
is not a year. This has not been a year. Like if I look at the last 12 months, there haven't been a lot of beats, right? There have been a lot of and there certainly haven't been any like we blew away.
How do you beat one of your projections by 80%? I don't even understand how it's possible.
Seriously, it's crazy. I don't know whether people there's less spend in the market right now because people are feeling the pain, or like one of our. I was just thinking about this. One of our the head of growth for another cookware company. He went to go work at Grun's, right? And he's a good guy. And so it's like he left what was like a high flying competitor of ours. And when your head of growth leaves to go somewhere else, I don't know what that means. What's going on in the, with your
there
business?
You go. That's
or
true
space.
operator. True, like you're really digging into the bag. You get strong companies in other industries. You recommend people in your industry that you want to go away. That's sabotage. Jason is like ecom ninja here. He's like, hey, who's awesome?
We spent the same as last year, and I think we're up 80% for last year. It's crazy.
Dude,
Yeah.
well, okay, we'll talk about Memorial Day sales first. What Jason's talking about his office, we did an awesome meetup last week, sponsored by Fulfill. Ceres Analytics was there. 2 softwares that we actually really like. And I just want to shout out those guys for putting it together. It's 30 plus brands, all doing $30 million, hanging out. I wanted it to be, some good workshops. So next time we do it, we'll do just workshops, us hanging out in groups, like actually diving in. But really cool stuff come out of those. And yes, Jason, your office is sick, bro. So you get me a desk in that place. Like, I'm looking forward to it. And
We
it
gotta
was
have Ridge Day at Hexclad, like once a month, right? Just like all the LA people at Ridge just come work at Hexclad. And we'll just jam. That'd be
That'd
good.
be awesome.
Yeah, if you weren't there, Hexclad they have like this sweet office, and then you can go up on the roof and you're like looking at the LA skyline, and they brought in chefs, and on Hexclad cookware, I might add, cooked some freaking amazing food. I'm still thinking about the food from that thing.
Dude, and it was the one time all of us were in the same room together. So
yeah. First time we'd ever all been in the same place. It's like the Coca-Cola thing where they would never let everybody who knew the formula fly on the same plane together, because if it went down, then the company was doomed. But we were all together.
We're 18% of the podcast market. Same market share as Coke.
Yeah. But no, anyway, so it was really awesome. So Fulfill puts together great events. They have really cool stuff coming out, like on the AI agentic side. And as you guys know, I'm going all in on like data warehouses. So
we had a great chat about AI too while we were here. That was one thing that I actually had a few of our team members just sitting around and while we were all chatting, and my head of ops texted me. He's like, "We're doing AI wrong." Oh, no, he texted me and he goes, "No, we're doing this wrong." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "We are not embracing AI enough." And I'm like, "Thank you. I've been saying this for like a year now. Like, everyone at the company needs to figure out how to embrace AI. We need to," and everyone gave great, like the people that were there were a lot of really great examples of how people are using AI. And it's not really about, let's eliminate headcount, blah, blah, blah. It's just, how do we be better? You have to embrace everything that's going to make you better. Just like Sean is crazy for Waymo, right? Sean is crazy for Waymo because at the end of the day, like it makes things better. And that's what AI is going to do. And everything else will figure itself out, but it's going to make everything better. And
I want to remake the point that I made to that group when we were talking about AI, because I think it's in line with what you're saying, Jason, which is just when a new really disruptive technology comes onto the scene, for the first chapters, what people do is they try and take that technology and apply it through the old paradigm of thinking about things. And so in this case, businesses right now are thinking about how did knowledge work get done in the 20th century or the early 21st century, and how could we do that, but with AI, plus AI, right? And what fewer people are doing, but where all the alpha is actually from a first principles standpoint, reimagining how can business look totally different with what the technology is capable of now. And when you start to go down that rabbit hole, like the answer is like, wow, it could be really radically different. And that's going to be where you can really transform your company, where really some incredible businesses can be, one of the things that's kind of discussed online is how long till you get your first one-person billion-dollar business. But like some things that just would have seemed impossible before, both in terms of what companies are capable of doing and how they're able to do it with headcount and how they're able to do it in terms of connectedness. We're in a new age. And so my encouragement to everybody, and really my challenge to myself, is can you get out of the old way of thinking about things and be like, yeah, I can just do that, but easier and cheaper with AI. And can I actually reimagine my business and think about it from a new lens? Because that's what the 18-year-olds are going to do. That's what the 25-year-olds are going to do. And e-com is a young man's game. Like, you have to stay really, I think, intellectually fluid in order to keep up, because the next generation that's coming in, they grew up with this stuff and they're just going to think about it natively in a way that I don't. And so I've got to work that much harder to compete with them.
Dude, the first thing I do before I have a problem is I go to AI. I'm like, I'm going to solve this with AI. It's like, we're working on a little side thing, all of us together. And you guys saw those mock-ups for the packaging. It's like,
yeah, I mean, it's shocking how quickly, and like, I still think we're at a point, Sean, where like, if you're going to do packaging, the best people at making packaging are still going to be better than AI. They know context, they know whatever. Or what we really have seen is the best people working with AI are amazing. So like, I've got a packaging guy, and when he gets in there and starts playing with AI, he can go through the design iteration, ideation process now in 10% of the time, because he doesn't have to spend as much time building it. He can just kind of get there really quickly. And so certain steps in the process, I still think the subject matter expert is really valuable. Now, there may be a point where that's not even true, but even the very best people in their field, what it's doing is it's really accelerating how quickly they can go, and it's amplifying how much output they can put out there.
Productivity, Mike. Like, this is just such it's, and I think that's the key point with AI and e-commerce right now, I think, or AI and consumer, is don't treat it like I can replace a bunch of people. Treat it like I can increase the capacity of all of my people by like 10x. So the best people you have can get 10 times more done in the same amount of time.
Well, that's like that idea of the 100x engineer. It's like, is the 100x engineer, is that coming for everything else? Is AI enabling it? Another one of the use cases that we talked about in that kind of private chat, when you're leading a company, there's all kinds of decisions that you have to make. And, they talk about it's lonely at the top, because often you're making decisions that really nobody else in the company is safe to discuss it with. Like, if you're feeling like I've got to make a reduction in headcount, or I need to make a major strategic pivot that's going to be controversial or whatever, there are just times when you need a sounding board of somebody who has a lot of context and is intelligent and can help you see around corners, but you can't really discuss it with anybody else in your company. That's another great example of where, like you were saying, Sean, AI can be awesome for that, where you can now give it an hour or two of context on your company and then say, hey, I need to discuss this issue. I need to bounce ideas off of you, play devil's advocate on this idea. And it's really quite good at that stuff already.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know Craig from Crocs. He runs AI for Crocs. He does like all these really great meetups. Like, I've spoken, I think Mike's spoken, Matt and Jason, you guys are up next. But he does one specifically for AI, and that was yesterday. And he had people from Under Armour and Moderna, all these big companies. And one of the best lessons we took from that, because I invited my executive team to these talks, is Moderna was talking about how like they have like a reward if you use AI. You got to meet Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg, like whoever has the best use of AI, right? And right now at Ridge, we're trying to force everyone to use it. Like on Fridays, we have AI game day where like we all make projects together, and like everyone has their hands on keyboards, everyone does it. And what the guy from Moderna was, the takeaway I had from it at least was, he's like, you're trying to make everyone be a 2 or 3x employee. He's like, what's actually better is let the people who are going to fail and give unlimited resources to the person who could be 1,000x employee.
Yes.
Right. Like, we have people on our team, like we have a guy, Jules, who's just cracked as hell at it. He's doing everything on this thing. And I'm like, oh, I should just give him unlimited budget. Be like, hey, if you want to spend $40,000 a month on AI, you can, dude. Go build whatever you want instead of trying to get someone and dragging them along. So
yeah, it is not one of the, I think that's a great point, Sean. This is like these tools, this tech is not one of those like make everybody 5 or 10% better things. There's going to be like just extreme outcomes on both sides.
The future's here, but it's uneven.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. It's always been that way. And what's really interesting about this, because one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is just overall managing the organization. And Matt and we had a lot of conversations about that when he was in town. How does he run his executive meetings? Sean did a headcount reduction. We did a headcount reduction. And how do we get more efficient? But like, how do we just manage better? How do we be better? And this is what it is. It's like, you just got to we have to force people to do things. And if they're not willing to, you either adapt or die. Like, people need to adapt or die. Everyone needs to adapt or die. And it's like, we actually have too much patience, I think, as managers, right? For letting people who are just not adaptable or don't have the right attitude. It's like, I'm tired of it. It's like, be grateful that you work at a place like Ridge or Simple Modern Well, like be grateful that you work for someone like Matt, who's going to give you the opportunity to grow. You have to embrace it and do it. And it's just like the best thing that we ever did was actually do a small headcount reduction. We've never done one before, and we've never done it. And honestly, I couldn't be happier that we got this done. It was hard. It was really hard. Like, don't think of me as insensitive. It was hard to do, but it had to be done. And now we've come out the other side. I'm literally getting texts from people all across the organization. It's like, vibes are high, things are great. And the next thing is forcing people. We're literally just going to force people to adopt AI in everything they do.
I think it's a great point, Jason, that it's human nature to take things for granted. It just is. Like we all do it. And one of the reasons it's sad that we work this way as humans. I'll just kind of preface what I'm about to say is like, I wish this wasn't true of me. I wish this wasn't true of us. But you know what? If you come into an organization that's never had anybody ever lose their job, then you start to take the jobs for granted. And you start to think, you start to forget that it's a performance game and that you have to be at a certain level. And so there is a certain amount of churn that's healthy. We went almost like 13 months with not a single person churning. And in some ways that was like, hey, everybody wants to be here and the culture is really healthy. But in another way, it was also, it can lead to a sense of like complacency. And as a leader, you're definitely wanting to preserve people's jobs. You're not wanting to have turnover just for turnover's sake. But you also have to remember that unless people see some turnover, unless they see that like, hey, if we don't perform, that it has these negative implications, then unfortunately they'll start to take their job for granted. And that, or you also get, Netflix famously talked about this, the high performers start to get frustrated because they realize that nobody in the organization can really lose their job, even lower performers, and it'll frustrate them and demotivate them.
Totally. Matt, you got a point?
Yeah, I think on the headcount reduction thing, I think Jason's saying like, don't take it as being insensitive. And I think that's Jason's great call. The thing that people, if you've never done one, right? I've done them in all my companies multiple times. It's taken as like this greedy, nasty thing that companies do. The reality is that every company as it grows, you grow headcount. And if we're all being honest, like if leadership and individuals are being honest, not everybody on the team winds up being an A player, like an actual A player. That's not a bad thing. That's just true, right? Like talent dilutes and things get complicated. And then, work spreads out or you start doing things you don't need to do anymore. But what happens when you do a headcount reduction is you wind up creating an environment where like you are left with just the best people. And the best people want to be surrounded by other best people. So when you say the vibes are high, Jason, it's because people had they feel more free. They feel more surrounded by their peers. So I just want to call out that like headcount reduction isn't about being greedy. It's number one, it's about taking care of the organization. So like if an organization is not healthy, that's not good for anybody. But number two, you want to create an environment where your best people feel like they are surrounded by their peers. That creates a far more productive company. That's all I wanted to say.
A great LinkedIn article. I read an article on LinkedIn, but the article was actually great, and it was titled "The 2 Lies in Every Job Interview." And the 2 lies were, number one, the lie that every employer tells to the job applicant, which is, if you get this job, I'll always have a job for you. And number two, the lie that every job applicant tells to the employer, which is, if I take this job, I'll always want to be in this job. And they were just making the point that like we walk into employment relationships with this lie that's going on both ways, because we know that there may come a day, or there will come a day where the company doesn't have that job for you anymore. And there will come a day where you don't want to be in that job. Now, whether that's you want to retire or you want to go do something else or you want to move or whatever. And so it's actually really healthy to have a mindset of everyone leaves eventually. I say this phrase to my company all the time. Everyone leaves eventually. I will leave eventually. And that is healthy. What actually defines your time in the company is, what do you take from your time here? And when you do leave, what do you take with you? Are you on a good trajectory in order to succeed? That's a company at its highest form. And like, here's a final thought. I'll actually use an analogy for marriage. The hard thing about marriage and compatibility is that if, say, at 25 years old, you're like, this is exactly what I need in a partner. This is like the perfect compatible partner. And you went out and you found that person. If you did not continue to grow and that person did not continue to grow, that relationship is eventually going to end. And the reason is because what you need at 30 and 35, at one kid, at two kids, in different stages of your career, in different stages of life, it changes. You change as a person, and companies are these dynamic things that change over time. And so even if somebody comes in, Matt, I think you made a good point. Sometimes it's that you're getting people that aren't A players, but other times it's not even that. It's just literally like you're getting, the company's different. The company needs something different, right? Like, hey, we really needed somebody to lead up X, but now we don't anymore because of technology or because we exited that market or because of how the business has changed. And so it's healthy. And we should normalize that this is healthy, that things change and they evolve and that nobody's job is permanent. But while you're here, we're going to do right by you. And then when it's time for you to go, for you to move on or for us to move on from you, we're going to be direct. We're going to be honest. We're going to be transparent. We're going to help you to go be successful in your next thing. Like, I think that's good leadership. Whereas I used to be really afraid of that ending of employment. And now I'm just not anymore because I actually, because I just realized that's what happens. The average person in America will hold 7 to 10 jobs during their working career.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Did you know that when you're in your 40s, there's still like a 25% chance of you changing a job in any given year? Even in your 40s, like it's crazy. Like, people just churn a lot. It's just the way things are.
Yeah, and I was going to say 10 sounds low. But Mike,
10 is the data, Sean. It's great. The Department of Labor actually publishes these statistics, and I did like a numbers project on it. 10 was the number for the baby boomers. So what's it going to be for our generation?
Oh, yeah.
For your generation.
30.
I mean, it's just like, it's going to be, I mean, when you start thinking about like, the gig economy and stuff, it's like, I don't know, countless jobs.
Yeah, Mike. And you said something, I mean, your whole thing is, people will change jobs and it's better for them for sure. You also said the word A player, and nothing makes me madder than when I talk to somebody and they're like, oh, we only hire A players. And I'm like,
it's not mathematically possible.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, Mike's got A players, Matt's got A players, Jason's got A players, I got A players. So where are the other 8,000 C players working? It's like,
they're all in the government, Sean. They're all Department of Transportation.
Yeah. It's just, you'll talk to somebody who has like a $10 million brand, a small brand, be like, oh, we only hire A players. I'm like, no, mathematically, you can't afford A players, dude. like as someone who considers myself, I'm probably a B+ player. That's the reality.
Well, and here's the thing that makes me mad about it, Sean, is that what an A player is contextual. First of all, it's contextual to like it's not like an A player in NBA basketball would be an A player in e-commerce. Like, it's like, it depends on what you're doing and what the team is. And there are some people that, like, in your culture and environment could be an A player for you, but probably wouldn't be an A player in Simple Moderns because there's a different set of skills that are needed. And people talk about it like it's this immutable property of like, oh, he's an A player, and fit and context just matters way more than people give it credit for.
So Northbeam just launched clicks and deterministic views, breakthrough attribution model that deterministically captures view-based performance of ad spend. This is huge. This means advertisers can attribute conversions and revenue to ad impressions and not just focus on one-day click. This is a really hard problem to solve. I'm so totally stoked that Northbeam is on. This new advanced multi-touch attribution model expands on their clicks-only model by incorporating proprietary in-app events from participating ad platforms. And these third-party events are validated by Northbeam's first-party pixel data, offering a more complete and accurate view of marketing performance. I just think this is so useful in today's environment. So many ad platforms have idiosyncrasies in user behavior that result in engagement metrics being more impactful on conversion than most conversion tracking software can measure. Platforms like Snapchat and TikTok, impressions are extremely important. Users are likely to click off of those platforms to make a conversion. But research from Snap and TikTok both prove that users have high brand recall off ads they've seen on those respective platforms. And rather than leaving the app instantly to make a purchase, the users are making purchases later, leaving conversions that are unattributed to ads without Northbeam CDV model. And so clicks and deterministic views are going to help you track the real value of your ads on more impression focused platforms. So check it out with Northbeam.
Yeah, so we're hiring for a role. So I have an employee I really like on a personal level who got an offer for a competitor for like double the money, literally double the money, right? And I explained to the guy, I'm like, hey, look, this company's going to go bankrupt. Like they make way less money than us. Their revenue's shrinking and they're making you an offer that feels very unsustainable. I'm like, I don't think you should take that offer. But he's like, for his career, he's going to take it or whatever. I wish him the best. He's going to do fine. He's a smart guy. So we're going to hire his replacement. And I got an application from somebody and they worked at a brand that we all know, a friend in the group. And I asked that person, I'm like, hey, like, they're not with you anymore. Like, what's the deal? And he's like, oh, she's incredibly competent, but she's very mean and hard to work with. And he's like, this person is one of the best to ever do it, but very difficult to work with. And I was like, oh, perfect. That's going to work great at Rich. I'm like, yeah, we don't really have to work with each other all that much, dude. It's Slack. It's not in person. Like, I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. So hopefully that person comes aboard. But let's talk about sales. So we're all jazzed up, hiring, firing, whatever. Jason, you crushed Memorial Day. Why?
We're trying to figure it out. That's the thing that people don't ask. Like people don't ask. They love to celebrate. I'm actually talking about like everyone loves celebrating the W, right? But like what happened? What did we do better, or what did the market do differently? And we did a Super Bowl commercial, right? I'm sure that has an effect. I think our ad content, it was better, more harmonized across like our site, like everything we've done from a design and content perspective is we've really elevated that. We had a lot less creative actually in the last two sales. Everyone's like, you need 8 billion ads, right? And I'm like, how about we just do less, do better stuff, run that. That's done really well. We didn't really change our merchandising or assortments or drop a lot of new products. And like the meta numbers are just great. I mean, they're just great. I don't know what to say. I don't know why. They're just great. I mean, when Sean was here, we talked about with a lot of people. He's like, well, meta was broken in 2024 and it's been better now. I mean, maybe they fixed it. There's that. And then there's I think people are spending less. So I think the combination is never one thing. The combination of Super Bowl spot, of others feeling pressure and spending less, of meta working better, of us just doing better. It's all those things, right? You got to just keep grinding to be better in every single way. And that's what we do here at HexCloud. I mean, Sean gave a really nice compliment to me and our team to say, how professional of an operation we're running here. I really appreciated that. Because we don't know, we're just trying to get it done around here and trying to just, Danny and I and Niles and the rest of us we're just trying to be the best we can be and get everyone to be the best they can be. And, it's never one thing. It's just, we've been battling really, really hard for years and years and years. And hopefully we're just getting better.
So I've got a question on this topic, which is what percentage of your sales and then what percentage of the year, because these are different, would you say you're on promotion, Jason? And the reason I bring this up is, Sean, you mentioned that promotion has been a big part of your advertising success this year. I think my number one takeaway recently, when I'm looking at our performance, is that we had a period with Amazon. We pay for some data, and we are the lowest in our industry in terms of how often we are on discount or promotional pricing. And we had a period with Amazon where we were really crushing with no promotion, which is great for margins. We've talked about this before. If your EBITDA margins are 25 or 27, the investment community starts to say that's too high. And we were probably too high. It feels great when you're doing it, but we were doing too little promotion probably. And that's been my number one takeaway across the business is we are not doing enough promotion. So I'm curious to hear from all of you, like, how often are you on promotion? And then how big a chunk of your sales do you think that is? How have you guys come to that number as a company?
What percentage of our sales? I've never thought about it like that, but what I'll say is at least once a quarter, we're going to run a sale. Okay. And our line is big enough at this point where we can have different things on sale for different people at different times. So even like probably once a quarter, we're doing sales on flagship products. Like right now you can buy gunmetal wallets on sale, $76. It's not the best price we've ever done, right? But it's pretty compelling and it's like a core thing that we're always going to have. So if you want that product, you can get it on sale right now. That happens once a quarter. So for us, it's Memorial Day, Father's Day. We do a anniversary sale. We'll do something in Q3 and we'll do something in Q4. And then all the time, there is some wallet on sale. So the 10 to 30% of people just want to buy the thing that's on discount. And we've launched so many products that like there is always a sales section of our website where there's a couple colors for them to choose from. So we have two funnels going all the time. Brand new stuff at full price. So buy it before it runs out. And the stuff that doesn't run out moves over to the sales section. So, we'll have stuff from 2, 3, 4 quarters ago still on discount for those people who want it. And that's something we've adopted. And dude, I'm looking at the numbers this year. I mean, I'm not up 80%, but I'm closer to being up 50. Right?
I think that's so smart, Sean. Like, I think the fact that, because we have a similarly really large catalog, and my observation has been, I think having something on discount always is the way you want to be. You want to be able to tell a save story somewhere in your portfolio at all times. And that's a heck of a lot easier when you just have a lot of breadth.
Yeah. And that's, pros and cons to everything we do, right? So I was with a team. You guys know that there's certain days where rings are more of my revenue than wallets. Like there's certain areas where I'm more of a ring business, which is crazy, right? And I was just talking about how lucky we are because the first thing we launched was watches, didn't work. Second thing we launched was rings. And then we launched a bunch of other shit that didn't work. So if I didn't find rings so early, like maybe the business would have gone under. I just got very lucky in that. And because we got that dopamine hit of rings, we've just been chasing that. So I've just been launching a ton of shit. And the downside is I have right now $30 million worth of inventory paid for in my hands, right? It's a fucking ton of inventory for a bootstrap company. That's just my money sitting there, right?
So much.
No debt on it, right? But the advantage of that is we just have a lot of stuff that we can try, right? So we've launched in the pursuit of finding the next rings. I have a ton of wallets. So I have a lot of different stuff that can appeal to different people, and we have different launches always coming up. And that's helped get the big growth this year. So SKU counts exploded. We're trimming that up right now that we found what we think are the next group of winners. But with that, I can do stuff like discounting. So that's my answer, is that once a quarter, I mean, dude, it's probably fucking half of our revenue comes from discounted periods. Like I'm a very Q4 heavy brand. 50% of my revenue happens in November, December. So it's more than that, but then there's always some sort of save story on the website. And Mike, I highly recommend doing that. And we're going to go to Matt. Matt, what's your answer?
I'm like you, I've never thought about this before. Like what's the percentage and I think depends on the brand. Lomi's very Q4 heavy. It's giftable. So it's like Mother's Day Q4. We like run 2 big peaks a year. Pila is more evergreen. Like the model is basically a buy one, get one evergreen offer. So what we do is lean into more messaging around like major holidays, Memorial Day, July 4th, Earth Day, Q4. But don't do like, I think Mike, we only run outside of our evergreen offer. We probably only run 2 or 3 major like other promotions a year on the Pila brand. And I don't know the percentage of revenue that comes
well,
from
and I mentioned percentage of time versus percentage of revenue because I think this is another interesting dynamic. Like let's use something like Lomi where, there's a couple of huge peak periods. We do licensed product and sports licensing is this way. There's about 20 days out of the year where you do 60% of the volume or something like that around Christmas and around like Father's Day. And so it's also really interesting to me that in some categories, you can keep it at a high price most of the year when you know you're not doing most of the volume, so that then you can show the save story during the big up period. So it might be 80% of your units are actually sold on promotion, but you're able to establish that price point with the other, all the other days. And I'm kind of like you guys. I just realized I've not thought about this enough. And one of the reasons why like this is top front of mind for me is that I just, in our particular category, I mean, even the electrolytes is kind of like this. It's like there's so many people in electrolytes. There's so many people in water bottles. I'm just like a glutton for like incredibly competitive categories, I guess. But it's like, if you're not telling some kind of a save story, it's just difficult to spend any significant amount of money on digital advertising, is what I'm more or less finding. Because it's like, how do you stand out? And like Sean, I asked you specifically at the meetup, and you mentioned the top of funnel plus promotion, which seems like it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, so I'm like, and Sean, one of the points you made that I want to make for everybody listening to this, because this is exactly how I'm talking about it. What practically has happened in my company is that my finance team and my planning team are like, we're trying to maximize kind of our return on working capital, our return on invested capital. And that pushes them away from promotion. And so if I'm not careful, they'll under promote. And so the only way that as an owner, I can kind of fix that is to just say, listen, guys, I'm just going to keep more money in the company as working capital. So like one of the things I'm doing this year is I'm just not going to take dividends for like 6 or 9 months. I'm going to take that extra chunk of money and I'm like, I'm keeping that all in the company, but that's all for inventory and things that we can spend towards promotion, because otherwise we're going to under promote.
Mike, if you want to incentivize sell through of inventory and they don't want it, what you just said is a very complex thing for a lot of people. So let's unpack that. What Mike is saying is his finance team wants to make sure they're getting all of the margin dollars out of that inventory, because that's how they're judged. They're like, we want the highest return. And if I discount this inventory, I'm literally, I'm selling $1 for 90 cents, right? Like I could get the full $1. The way to counteract that is assign a holding cost to inventory. Be like, you're actually going to pay me interest on inventory that you have for over 3 months. And, it's just to you or whatever. So it's not real interest, but be like, ratchet up the cost to hold inventory. And then your team will very quickly be like, we got to get this fucking inventory out of here because I'm losing more. Right.
Well, or you just say, hey, there's a market share or a units moved kind of component. But I think this is actually really, really helpful, Sean, that you're breaking this down, because Bezos will talk about, hey, anytime you take one metric and you're like, well, this is the God metric and we're optimizing everything around this, you'll very quickly see people optimize around that metric in ways that aren't actually best for the business. So return on invested capital is a smart thing to track and it's a smart thing to optimize for, but only in the context of some other pieces of information. Like, for example, like how long are we holding inventory? If you're not looking at return on invested capital and using a time component, then it's worthless. Or if you're not looking at your market share at all, well, you can get really high return on invested capital by just shrinking your sales to like established customers, for example, like turn off marketing and get rid of all those sales. So you have to have, I think good leadership is actually finding the balance of metrics that helps your team to like actually run the business in the way that's best for the business today and tomorrow.
Totally. And Taylor Holiday was just on Finance Operators, our spin-off show. Happy birthday, Meetab. And he was talking about that. He's like, it's show me the incentive. I'll show you the
Happy birthday,
outcome.
Matt. We haven't even said that today.
Oh, no, the guys got me early on.
Yeah.
Oh, did they?
Thanks,
Okay.
Mike. Yeah.
Sorry.
And he was saying, he's like, look, if you bonus sales teams on retention only, like keeping our clients, they'll just offer the clients half price, right? It's like, there you go, man. You'll end up screwing yourself. But anyway, that was a great question, Mike. We heard from Jason, absolutely ripping sales for Memorial Day. Mike, Matt, what about you guys?
We were up significantly. I don't think 80%. I think it was probably closer to 50. The weekend itself was softer than I thought it would be, but then Memorial Day, I think, was the Monday. right?
Mhm.
This week. That was actually quite strong, especially it looked and acted a lot like Cyber Monday. I don't think I've ever looked at the hourly pacing of Memorial Day before, but it was strong and it felt like Cyber Monday. I'm like, in the morning, I'm like, is anybody alive in America? Like, is anybody online? And like, oh no, they're probably out having fun.
They're
Like
at
the
the
weather's
lake.
good. And then in the evening, it just ripped. Yeah, I'm happy, man. I didn't really know like how this would go, and I think that's sort of my cautious optimism of this year. Is I kind of have this theory that I think the consumer, just like last year, was like very price sensitive and deal oriented. I wonder if we're just seeing like an exacerbation of that in 2025, and that we'll just continue to see that trend in sort of like a tight, in like still a tight, broader macro environment, and all like bad news for the first few months, right? Like, I don't know. And then the other side of me is, Sean, I don't know about you, but I'm just like hoping that maybe people are like tired of all the bad news around tariff and they're just starting to shop again because Americans are realizing they're still rich.
Yeah. Dude,
I don't know.
how funny was it that like we started the year with basically zero tariffs, right? Like we still had to pay the fucking whatever 20% AIPA or whatever from China, and then we go to like unlimited tariffs basically, right? It's like we're just in infinity tariffs, and now we're at 30%. Everyone's like, dude, tariffs are over. It's like it's still a my tariff rate on wallets is 76% or whatever. It's still fucking
That's so
massive, but
crazy.
like, oh no, everything's good, guys. Don't worry. Most brands are leaving money on the table with SMS. Not us at Ridge. SMS is our number one revenue driver, and PostScript is the reason why. Here's the deal. SMS is an email. If you treat it like email, you're doing it wrong. PostScript gets it. They help brands like ours turn SMS into a high margin, high ROI channel. And here is 5 reasons why PostScript prints money for us. They stole the 5 reasons why landing page from all the D2C operators, but here you go. 5 reasons why PostScript print money for us. 1, we stop wasting sends. Blast and text randomly, bad move, expensive move. PostScript dialed in our automations and subscriber LTV tracking. The results, our abandoned cart recovery rate doubled. They told me that. They did the data. It doubled. More subscribers equals more cash. List growth isn't just about getting numbers up. It's about getting buyers in. PostScript's AI pop-ups and cashback incentives powered by Fondue grew our list 3 times faster. And those people are actually spending money. AI-powered SMS equals instant conversions. Customers don't wait around. If you're not answering instantly, you're losing sales. PostScript AI does the heavy lifting. We went from hour-long response times to closing sales in seconds. An hour-long response time is actually best in class. We have an amazing customer service team using Rich Panel and other awesome tools, but it still takes hours to respond to all these people coming in. With AI-powered SMS, we're getting instant conversions. The number 4 reason why PostScript is the king of SMS. PostScript auto-optimizes for profit. They have this new thing called infinity testing. It consistently finds the best messages to send. No guesswork. We saw a 20% revenue boost just by letting it run. Number 5, we're not getting fined. 1 SMS compliance mistake equals a lawsuit. PostScript makes sure we don't mess this up. We scale without worrying about legal headaches. The bottom line is brands are winning at SMS and growing faster than anybody else because they're using PostScript. If you're serious about scaling up, go to postscript.io, tell them Sean sent you, and get a free SMS audit. Your competitors are going to do this. If you sell pans, they are rushing right now. So if you're not on PostScript, you got to get here before your competitors. Get that free SMS audit. And the results for Ridge in 2024, we had 1 million opt-ins. We had 500,000 new subscribers. Revenue was $37 million, grew 100% year over year just on SMS. The ROI, 108x. There's a 151% increase year over year. We had 106% increase in revenue, 108x ROI, and close to 500,000 new subs. SMS is killing it for Ridge. We think PostScript is the way to go. We think PostScript is the best name in SMS. They have a 5 reason why. They're not going to waste money on sends. They're not going to leave your customers out to dry. You're going to get more subscribers. They're going to instantly convert them with AI. They have auto optimization for profit. They're going to keep you compliant. I think SMS is still the frontier of messaging to customers, and PostScript's the best name in it. Ridge did $40 million in SMS last year. This year will probably double again, $100 million in SMS probably because of PostScript. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast. Thank you guys. Talk to you later.
Yeah. I wonder, I don't know if you guys ever think about this, but like people get bad news fatigue. Like it's something is really bad for a while. If it's bad for too long, they just sort of tune it out. It's kind of like violence in movies. It's like you continue to have to step up like how violent something is just to get a reaction out of people. I just wonder if we're there.
It feels like it with the market's reaction. The market's like, oh, we're only at 30% tariffs. And it's just like, let's go to an all-time high. And you're just like, man, that's a lot of extra cost in the system. That's like functionally like taxes just went up a bunch, which has never led to stock rallies in the past. But I guess when people think, you're in a nuclear trade war, that only 30% feels better. I don't know. It's super weird. I mean, I think, Matt, what you're talking about is the difference between expectations and reality. And, Trump's a master at it. Set an expectation that you're an absolutely crazy person willing to do crazy things. And then when you only do irrational things, everybody's like, this is great, like awesome.
Yeah, I think, I just don't know how to plan the business right now. I think that's probably like the net of all of this is I'm just not sure what the next 12 months looks like. And I find that difficult to operate in.
Oh man, tell me about it.
Dude, yeah, 12 months, 24 months. I mean, who the fuck knows? All right, Mike. All right. You have a different business. Jason, very, his sales are coming in through Amazon and through Shopify. He sees those things daily. Matt, more or less the same.
Too.
Yeah. I'm also very pulse on the trigger. You're the guy who's a little slower. You don't know what's happening to Target until probably Tuesday or Wednesday the following week. So
well, we get so I'll distinguish when you're running a wholesale, like a big part of your business is wholesale. You get point of sale numbers. So you don't get them like hourly, but you get like the next day within 18 hours, like we'll know what happened the previous day at say Target or Walmart. So it's not that you don't have access to them, but your wholesale dollars, which is actually selling things where people give you money, and your point of sale are now different. They're disconnected. And they don't necessarily track together. So, for example, we might say, hey, we sold 100,000 bottles in wholesale last week, but we only got POs for 70,000 bottles for whatever reason, right? Because it turns out that Walmart had a bunch of extra inventory, or Walmart just has decided that they want to run a smaller weeks of cover, or it can go the other way. Sometimes it's like, well, point of sale is fine, but for some reason, Amazon came in and just made a massive PO. And so we ended up having an awesome month in September randomly because Amazon was stocking up for Q4. And so anyway, like that's really disorienting is that sometimes on the financial side, Sean, we'll have a great month when you're like, there's really no reason that September was this awesome. Or the opposite can happen to you where it's like, man, why did we break even in March? And it's like, well, nobody ordered because of whatever, like a point of sale was fine, but nobody happened to order. On the Simple Modern side, like we're just having to rebuild the business is pretty much the way I would describe it because if you're in a really high velocity, lower margin category like drinkware, the tariffs were the most disruptive of anything out there. We're in kind of one of the final stages, which is negotiating what the new pricing is going to look like with all of our wholesale partners. And when you're omni-channel the way that we are, you have to kind of talk to everybody at once, and you have to kind of negotiate because Walmart really cares where Amazon's priced and Target's priced, but you've kind of got to get them to agree to new pricing, but they don't want to do it if other people aren't doing it. And so it's kind of like a multilateral negotiation. And we're almost at the end of that phase. We turned all of our marketing off in April because we were like, well, at 150% tariffs, we don't want to be selling the inventory we have. We want to be holding on to that. We don't know when the tariffs are going down. So basically, like our April and May were like really down, probably 20 something percent. And we've just kind of started to turn things back on. And it's like, okay, you're at break even year over year. And now we can kind of rebuild toward some momentum. But there was just a period where it's like you didn't even want to be selling things because you didn't know what you had. And then we need to do an entire episode on Trevi, but I really think there's a possibility that like I end up being more proud of what we've done with Trevi than anything I've done in my career because it's such a competitive category. And during the chaos of the last couple of months, we kind of charted a course and struck some deals that are going to make that I think every bit as valuable a brand as Simple Modern over the next couple of years. And so really proud of that. I mean, it's growing, like consumables are crazy because you can be like, hey, what's our week over week growth? And you can just like consistently stack week over week. You don't even have to think year over year, because once people start taking it, it just builds and builds and builds and builds. So anyway, really excited about that business. But I would say, man, the last 8 weeks, easily the most challenging since COVID of running Simple Modern. There were some days which I was like, is this what a panic attack feels like?
Step before.
Because there was just like so much uncertainty. There were like 10 different things in my business where it was like, I feel pretty good that this is going to work out, like 80, 90%. But there's so many of them that if a bunch of these break against me, I don't know what happens. And over the last month, we've gotten a lot of that kind of resolved and a lot more certainty. It also really helped us to understand where we stood with our wholesale partners, with Amazon and Target and Walmart. And really what all of them reaffirmed is like, you are a very important partner to us. So that was really encouraging, because you start to realize like, it's like when things go bad in life, you know who your real people are. Like, who are the people that rally around you? Who are the people that you can count on? And I think that was great for us to see like, hey, who are the friends that were checking in on me via text? Who are the partners that were really with us, on our team? Who are the people that really responded and rose to the challenge? So in a lot of ways, the last couple months were a gift. You wouldn't see that on our income statement. But I think 12 months from now or 18 months from now, you're going to be like, man, how are you guys crushing it like this? And it's going to be like, well, the seeds of all that was the trade war.
Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, my man. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
For sure.
Happy to hear it.
I have a lot of sympathy for everything Mike's going through, dude. Here is an ally here to help. I was talking about this with Katie. Bro, it fucking sucks being the boss. It's like, you want to talk, like panic attacks, like anxiety, just like the amount of stress I've just been redlining. And look, privileged position, like I get to keep my job. I get to make all these fucking decisions, but it sucks ass. And like nobody cares.
It's a hard job. Like we glamorize the CEO position. We glamorize being the boss, but in periods like the last couple months, it's really clear that it's also like the hardest and the worst position to be in a company.
But let me add one thing to this, because this is gonna sound like it's an a-hole comment, but I'm just gonna say it. We're sitting in this seat because we're better, and we deserve to be here. And like when you doubt yourself about the decisions, etc., like you're gonna make wrong decisions, but you're gonna make better decisions than most people. So I look at all the difficulty we've been through, and like we talk about how privileged we are to be here. We're here because like we make the right calls, and I've never been more confident in the decision making that in my career, right? Based on like what we've gone through now, I've never been more confident in my ability to make the best decisions relative to others, and that's why Mike, you're here. That's why Matt, you're here. That's why Sean, you're here. I think you need to remember that, because sometimes it's really hard. You feel like you're getting a freaking beat down left and right, but you're here because you're exceptional. You're here because you're great. And I really enjoyed spending time with the three of you and learning from the three of you. And we got to do it more often.
Yeah,
dude,
I agree, Jason. Well, one other kind of thought on that, Jason, which is interesting about how people perceive your leadership abilities. When things are going great and it just seems easy, it's easy for other people watching you to be like, I should be CEO. That seems pretty easy. Seems like this is when, and you'll see people at successful companies all the time. They'll do this. They'll be looking around and be like, I could do this. I need to go start my own company. Mike's a schmuck and he's making this work. It's actually when things are really difficult that I think you gain a lot of respect in people's eyes as a leader, because when it's unclear what the right decision is, when it is hard to keep a steady hand and a cool head. And so like I've actually loved the challenge, Jason, of, am I the leader that I want to be? Am I the leader that I think I am? I actually learned a lot more about that over the last 2 months than I ever did during the periods where we're growing triple digits or, profitability is exploding. And a big part of that is I really have enjoyed being with you guys. Like, I've said this before. I love the fact that other people like to tune in and listen to us talk to each other. But for me, the thing that's always brought me in has been talking to you guys and spending time with you guys every week. Like, it's like my one of the highlights of my week is that I know I've got an hour or an hour and a half where I'm just going to sit with you guys and talk shop. And I have always walked away from our recordings calmer, I feel like, which is interesting,
Well, I got fucking homework now because this pricing thing. So thanks for that, Mike.
Well, there you go.
You go be calm. I got to go dig in some numbers. Okay, I have some news to share and take a little break from the episode. After Sean sort of started talking about Rich Panel, I actually moved Pillacase to Rich Panel about 4 months ago. And I wanted to share some stats with you on how this is going for us. Our customer service, our CSAT, is at an all-time high. Like, we're at 90+% since moving. And you guys know this, like, if you've listened to the show, I'm not a fan of Trustpilot. I think their SEO game is great, but I think the company is awful. I think they're extortionists. I hate their business practice. And I think Rich Panel has helped Pila actually increase our Trustpilot score without me having to pay the mafia, as I like to call them. So most people have to pay Trustpilot to do review programs just to boost their ratings. Like I said, it's extortion. And all we did was just use Rich Panel and better processes that Rich Panel enables to actually get that up. Our self-service rate is over 50%, which is amazing because that's more than 50% of our users actually use, like, they self-service themselves, which is less work for us. And all of these improvements came at a great price. I think we saved 50% of our SaaS costs on customer service by moving to Rich Panel. So look, all this to say, they offer a 60-day money-back guarantee on any annual plan. This is a no-brainer. Because of this success, I'm moving my second brand, Lomi, to Rich Panel as well. As you know, on this show, we only take sponsorship dollars from people we use. So I think if you're looking to improve these things when it comes to customer experience, Rich Panel is an awesome option. I think most of us use this now. So go check it out. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the show.
Sam, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
So we're gonna dig into some sales tax, huh? Is that the plan? Is that what we're talking about then?
Yeah, we can talk about. We can talk about whatever. I'm just happy to be here. I ran e-commerce businesses for a number of years before I got into sales tax. It was just I think after years of grinding on e-commerce, I think I realized it's easier to make money selling to e-commerce than actually trying to deal with stuff getting stuck in containers and punching your brains out. It's at the Port of Long Beach.
Sam, it's also easier to make money podcasting than it is to sell physical goods. So welcome to the Operators Network. I heard you on the Finance Operators, really, really awesome show. And Matt, are you trying to lose the audience? You open it with "Let's talk about sales tax," or is that Jason? It's like the most boring thing on earth. No one wants to talk about.
Being honest.
Yeah. No, man, I use the product. I think I pay full price for the product. Have never invested or taken a dollar, but I like it because I really hate the alternatives. If people listen to this, I mean, they already know it's fucking the worst thing ever. So yeah, man.
Like, Sean, why do we, let's just like myth bust here. Sam, help me out. Why is Canada's sales tax so hard? Sam doesn't come to Canada because there's no business model here. Like, we have 10 provinces. Like, there's 10 tax rates. There's no county sales tax rates. Like, the US is the most messed up sales tax system on the freaking planet. Like, you go to the EU and it's one VAT rate per country.
Yeah.
We have one VAT, like, we have one sales tax rate per basically state. And then in the US, it's like, how many are there, Sam? 3,000?
There's like
3,500?
13,000 tax jurisdictions, right?
13,000.
So your local school district can pass their own
and you
sales
call
tax law.
Canada an overtaxed country. Just saying, guys, this is not the place you pick on Canada.
All right. Yeah. Maybe it's because they're using words I don't understand.
Yes, harmonized. That sounds far too pleasant.
Yeah.
Well, when you're doing Quebec, you have to deal with French too, which makes it even
Dude,
easier.
That's not sales tax, though. That's just a stupid language.
Another thing is, like the different cultures around it. So like in the United States and Canada and Australia, like people are used to sales tax being added to the price. But if you ever want to see somebody freak out, see like European tourists come to America and then they're confused that like it's more expensive than it says on there because they're so used to it just being built into the price, right? So Sam, for my own curiosity, why'd you get into sales tax? How'd you make it better? International sales tax versus VAT, and what's a better system? And maybe you just solve that for everybody today in these 15 minutes.
Easy. I think the reason I got into this is, I was a e-commerce operator for a number of years. And, I think sales tax when I started was pretty easy. I could collect and remit sales tax into the state of California. My local CPA was handling it, and then when I go ship to New York or somewhere, I didn't have to even think about it. I could just ship tax free. But at the end of 2018, there was this big Supreme Court ruling called Wayfair South Dakota. And after that, all of a sudden I realized I had to go and register in, 40 plus states. So now I'm dealing with, Department of Revenue, Alabama, Mississippi. I was like getting physical mail from all of these states. I remember like being on the call with this woman in West Virginia and just like getting the huge argument, trying to ask her for some penalty waiver. And, as like, and these are not, it's not like the IRS is actually like very competent. Like the Department of Revenue, West Virginia is like insane. You're like on the hold for 2 hours and they just hang up on you. Like they don't even care. So I think what I realized is, as an e-commerce operator, as you guys know, you're dealing with hundreds of things and dealing with like this boring ass compliance thing where you just at any minute you spend on it is just pure brain damage. Or that's how I felt. Like I wanted to be focused on like in my Facebook ads or doing ordering or product development, and sales tax was just pure pain. And so I think the idea was, we had used there's sort of these incumbent softwares, and they're very much like these like self-serve tools. But me as an end consumer, I was still on the hook for, again, like opening the mail, like trying to understand what the hell they're telling me, calling these states. And really, I think the idea was it really should just feel like a done for you service. And yes, it's actual software running most of this stuff at the end. But really the idea was, how do you have a solution that just does it for you so you can get back to work and try to think about sales tax as little as possible? And so that was the idea. And it was like, it was a little hard, I think, pivoting from e-commerce. I have an e-commerce business that was, generating 7 figures cash flow. And I think it was a little bit tricky to cross the chasm, but it was we joined Y Combinator. It was enough like a forcing function for us to actually have to like delegate out our business. And I still run a vitamin gummy business that does north of 10 million a year.
What's the brand, man?
It's called Fling Wellness. We sell it's a gummy. It's vitamin gummies. So I think it's a good vertical, but hard to maintain when you're not in it day to day.
Now, Mike, Jason, Matt, have you guys ever been audited for sales tax?
Well, like I remember when it wasn't even a given thing that you had to collect sales tax. Like this was an argument for many, many years. This shows how old I am in e-commerce. Yeah. Is that for many years, there was this idea of like Nexus and like you didn't really have to collect sales tax if you didn't have a physical fulfillment center, and Amazon, for everybody listening who doesn't know this history, Amazon for years and years and years basically dodged paying sales tax to a lot of the states. And then finally there was kind of like one big compromise where they kind of figured it out with everybody all at once. Now they collect everywhere. But yeah, man, there was a period where it was like people in e-com did not collect tax. Like you were supposed to in some places, but the law was super like, we had like a back and forth with the state of Michigan for like 5 years once. If you think you not paying Google for 2 months is big, like we were like, no, we are not paying this. And so it was just kind of like the Wild West. And it's really just recently that I don't know. I mean, Sam, when did it start to become a little bit more unified?
It's that ridiculous Wayfair case, which basically established the Nexus rules. Right. And then it was like, okay, whatever you get to, whatever the number is, 100K, 200K a year in sales in a particular state, and you got to start collecting sales tax there. And to answer Sean's question about audits, like, I don't know if we've been audited, but I will know that I get random calls on my cell phone from like the state of Alabama and,
exactly.
and Washington State. They literally call me It's incredible. Like the army of people that are out there just harassing people like us. That's why you need to use a solution like
Yeah,
Numeral.
Marietta County has a
Oh my
lien filed
Lord.
against HexClad.
Oh
And
my,
you're like,
it's
what
unbelievable.
in the world?
I mean, we started doing this really early. I mean, we started sales tax really collecting sales tax in 2021 outside of California, and definitely, from the beginning in California. It's crazy.
Yeah. So the most aggressive offenders would be Washington State, Illinois, Minnesota. Like I've been audited by all those states, and that's their main source of revenue. They're like, all these fucking brands are spending money, and they will go in there and get every single dollar. And there's a lot of states who are just happy to get a check in the mail. You know what I mean? Like Vermont, they're like, whatever, free money, dude. we're gonna buy a new ski lift. Do you guys have any tax horror stories? I have a horror story if you guys got one.
Nothing I want to actually talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's ongoing litigation, you should decline to speak about it.
So all these states will aggressively audit you, right? They'll they want to make sure they're getting every single dollar. Well, from 2019 to early 2021, my accounting team, it was an outside CPA, was double paying sales tax for everything on Amazon. So Amazon collects and remits on your behalf, right? That's one of the advantages of selling on Amazon, right? They take care of all that compliance. And then our outsourced accounting team would take whatever our revenue was for Amazon, they would send them an equal amount of money for sales tax for whatever they thought that was supposed to be. So that's over $1 million in sales tax liability that just left my door. And yeah, I guess I probably should have captured it sooner. I mean, it was probably 12 months. It was over COVID. It was crazy. So they're very fast to audit you. How fast do you think they are to give you that money back? Very, very slow. They do not want to give you that money back. I'm still waiting on probably $350,000. And a lot of them were like, well, we'll just give you a credit the next time you file. Guys, it's an automated fucking system. You know what I mean? Like the money's collected, the money immediately goes to you guys through Shopify, through everything else. So Sam, you see a lot of that?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever try to get money back, it's not only are they sticklers and, you have to call them a bit, dozens of times to try to get them to give you the money. Often, they'll use that as an excuse to go and audit you as well. So it's, I think the double paying is very common too. Where we recently, we had a lot of clients come to us because, they were using these kind of older systems like Avalara, and, TikTok shops were, people were connecting TikTok shop to their Shopify account, and it was just paying sales tax on all those TikTok shop orders. But TikTok is already collecting and remitting on your behalf. So you're basically paying taxes that you didn't collect. And so, again, that's pretty expensive for all those orders. If you're paying 7-8% of all those orders out of pocket, your basic, that could be your whole margin wiped away because you just made this really simple mistake. But it's not, again, nobody's sitting there spending free time. Let me go check out my sales tax and see if it's all configured correctly. It's usually the last thing you want to even think about. And so that's why it's, I think, such a hard problem is at least, your Facebook ads is kind of interesting. Maybe you'll go pop in and find something there. But with sales tax, nobody in their free time is just going and playing around and trying to figure out what's going on.
Sam, this is such a great point, and this applies all over your business, but in this area for sure. Every little bit counts, and you can just be giving away 5-6% here, 5-6% there. It's like the ATM charges that people you don't realize when you go to an ATM and they take 1% of your money or 2% of your money. It's over time that really adds up. And if you want to be a good operator, you need to be have people in these details and invest. It's really an investment, right? It's investing your time and money, but this compounds in the long term. And it's amazing to me, people will do that, right? They will double pay these things, but they won't blink at spending in other areas. But this is basic infrastructure, know your numbers. This is the basics and building blocks of a good business is having, I'm sure a lot of the tech services that we use and promote on the pod, I know they're profit center, right? And I'm sure that at the end of the day, yours is a profit center for people because you're going to eliminate costly mistakes.
I think, yeah, it can be pretty insidious too, right? So you can make a small mistake. We had a client recently selling, some shot where you take it and then doing tens of millions in sales, and they've been taxing it as juice for many months. And when we came in to onboard them, we noticed they had a supplement fax on their product. And so it's actually not taxed as juice, it's taxed as supplements in many states. And so again, if you get, but there's a bunch of states where they weren't collecting remedied. If they get audited, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And how are you supposed to know like that this should be taxed as a supplement versus a juice? Like it's just nothing you really be wanting to, you want to spend or waste your time on, and you're just relying on someone else to get that right for you. So yeah, that's why it's really risky.
So I think I was the first one on the team here to use Ceres because I was really excited about getting a data warehouse at HexCloud. I just felt like with all of our channels, everywhere we're spending, we had a bunch of different tools that we were looking at. And I just wanted all the data in one place because I just thought that we were missing out and leaving money on the table. And I really thought that having a clean data warehouse we were going to make money. Like we were just the return on this is huge. And I'm seeing it already. I asked the growth team at HexCloud to send me information, and like they sent me these awesome looking sheets, and I'm like, is that from Ceres? And yeah, I'm like, so I'm stoked. Everyone at the organization is adopting it. At the management level, for me, it's really, really important that I don't have to go. People send me 5 different spreadsheets or digging around, and they pull data. Like every single piece of data at HexCloud is being pulled into Ceres, and I'm really stoked.
Yeah, Jason got me on it. And I was super hesitant about data lakes, data warehouses. Like you hear these things all the time, and I'm like, our business is too simple. Like, why the fuck am I going to pay an additional fee to have, the information I already have access to put in one place? But then they actually set the thing up for me, and then I realized like how backwards what we were doing was. So we have something called the Daily Growth Dashboard, okay, and it's all spend from all marketing channels and all revenue from all markets put into one thing, and then that's just grown over time. We've been using it for like 8 years at this point. So there's so much data in there, and it's so manually manipulated. So we have somebody pull in ring revenue in Canada every day. Okay. So we probably have 4 full-time people who are just feeding information into this. And Ceres just replaces all of that. Ceres is like, look, we'll just hook up directly into all the Shopify markets. We have 5 of them. We'll pull in all of the Amazon markets. We have 8 of them. We'll pull in wholesale information. We'll pull information from Fulfill. And so I've rebuilt the Daily Growth Dashboard, but with actual data connection and not just people typing shit into spreadsheets. So you get more accurate information, and then you just have a next layer of insight to pull from there. So now I can see ring customer cohorts from Amazon. We never had that before because no one was actually pulling that information in. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it probably pays for itself just from like the data entry employees that don't have to do that anymore. And
what I'm most excited about too, Sean, is like how we layer AI over all this data at some point. Like I want to chat GPT this stuff and just be like, hey, tell me what this was then, and compare this year over year, and not have to like log in and look stuff up. Like I'm getting Tableau reports and things like this out of it, but I want to just be able to talk to it and get it there. And I think that's next.
Yeah. And so one reason I was hesitant is I thought the future would be Shopify built an AI, right? Or Claude hooks up to Shopify and Amazon and all these different things. But actually, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have to take your data and put it into something you own and control, a data lake or a data warehouse or whatever you want to call it. And so that's why I embraced Ceres. I think Shopify will roll out a data tool, or other people will build awesome AI data tools that then you take your data and plug it into. So if you want to be ready for an AI future, there's a couple different ways AI could happen. I think the most likely one is you actually have to have all your data in one place. I don't think it's going to be smart enough to pull in just rich Amazon data or whatever. So anyway, you have to set that up. You got to pay people to do it. We went with Ceres based on Jason's recommendation. I'm paying them. I was paying them before they sponsored the podcast, but they liked Jason so much, they came on board. So thank you so much. Audits are one thing, right? Cash out of the pocket, whatever. Let me talk about why sales tax is particularly difficult. It's because it's a liability that doesn't go away. Right. So if you want to go sell your business and you do not have your sales tax correct, particularly around this weird 2018 to
Yes.
2021 period, a lot of time buyers will just walk away, right? Or they will make you put part of your sale in escrow in case states ever come back and ask for that, right? Because I think a lot of states' liability never goes away or goes away in 7 years or some of this. It's like it's a really, really long liability that actually lies with you, even if you didn't collect it from your customers. And there was some SaaS company, I can't remember who now, but like they got into trouble with this and they sent emails out to customers for years, like past customers being like, hey, you actually owe the sales tax. You have to go pay this. And it's like, obviously I'm not going to fucking pay the sales tax for you. You forgot to collect. So maybe Matt, Mike, Jason, have you guys seen deals blow up? Sam, I'm sure you've seen deals
I've seen
blow
it. Yeah.
up.
I just had a
Yeah,
friend.
and seeing multiples, I mean, like it's kind of like a direct hit on EBITDA. Sometimes is how buyers will treat it because it's real money that has to be paid and it's got to come out of the business. And Jason, you said it. I think that the thing that ecom taught me more than anything else is that your income is always somehow a little bit less than you expect, and your expenses are always somehow a little bit more. And this is a great example. Like. I remember this was back, in the mid 2010s, but I had a quarter where I thought we'd made X and we'd made 30% of X, and the delta was sales tax, And so it really is one of just the fundamentals of being a good operator is that you have to know your numbers and you have to have good tools and systems to make sure that the numbers you're looking at, the one of the things that I've learned is looking at inaccurate numbers is worse than looking at no numbers at all, because it lulls you into a sense of confidence and complacency. This happened recently on one of our channels. It wasn't related to sales tax, but it was related to one of our internal reporting for one of our sales channels. And we were just fundamentally overstating margins. And so that team thought, hey, we're crushing it. We're doing great. And my CFO is like, that channel sucks. And it was like the disconnect was our reporting. So I just think this is one of the things that's like, hey, if we could all vote, would we have to deal with sales tax and e-com? We'd probably be like, yeah, I'd rather not. But the reality is it's part of running a business, especially a digital business, and you have to be on top of it. You have to have something that gives you an accurate view of where you are. My one other story here is that at one point we were bootstrapped really early on, and they weren't automatically connecting it. We didn't remit sales tax for a year so that we could keep buying inventory, because we knew that if we wrote an apology letter, you get like a one-time kind of get out of jail free. Not like they don't forgive the amount, but they give you like an extension on it. If you say, I'm really, really sorry, I won't do this again. And so we wrote that letter, and we were able to delay paying it by a little bit so we could buy more inventory. And I disavow that idea for anybody listening to the podcast. By the way, I'm not encouraging any kind of tax fraud, but anyway, it's a real thing, and it's just part of being a good operator is that you're on top of it.
You should, when you set up your business, when you set up Shopify, any of that, like you should just do it, right? And if you're out there and you're 5 million in sales or 10 million in sales, and you don't think you need this, it's just short-term thinking, because you want to be a bigger brand, right? And you should act like a bigger brand, like the minute you get started, because you just don't have to deal with the headache later, and it just comes back to bite you, and it's just going to be a lot more work later. So
one thing that I need to jump in today, because it's like, well, okay, well, why are you guys, why is Numeral like a sponsor of the pod? Why would we endorse this? Shopify has an integration now for this. So why? And the answer is that Shopify's integration is quite expensive. Sam, can you talk about that? Like, am I wrong here that the Shopify can do this service, but it can be on by default sometimes, but it's quite expensive?
Yeah, Shopify, they have their own versions that and products you can use to do sales tax. But the challenge is, again, it's very much a tool, and it doesn't handle everything for you. So the first thing, again, is how do you avoid these mistakes? You actually want to get some consultation and understand how to do this correctly. And so for that, with Shopify, it's very much they have products around this, but it's everything is self-serve, and so you have to figure out what's the taxability by product. In New York, if you sell a bagel entirely, it's tax exempt, but if you slice it in half, it becomes taxable because there's some esoteric law there. And so, probably you're not selling bagels, but it's so easy to just make a mistake. And then you also have to go and register with each of these states, and they don't help you at all with that. So you can go and try to register by yourself, but again, it's pretty confusing. You might check some wrong boxes there. And then Shopify, again, they have a solution, but it only works if you're 100% on Shopify. So if you have any sales on any other platform like Amazon, etc., it's not gonna handle that for you. But I think if you're an early seller, I'm friends with the team that at Shopify that have built it, and so I don't want to hate too hard. And they're working hard to make their offerings better. But yeah, I think as it stands today, I think if you just want to be hands off and like don't want to think about it, you want someone else to read your mail, you want to get registered automatically as your sales grow, it's probably better to use one of the newer services out there. Obviously, I'm a fan of our own, but I think I think in general, like if you look at the way Shopify builds things, things like subscription apps or even email, they'll build stuff that can kind of do some of the basic building blocks for you if you're a really small seller. But if you have any sophistication to your business, they're not trying to go, and that's like a stated kind of a stated philosophy that Toby even talks about. They're not trying to build like the long tail of all the complicated things that a sophisticated seller would want.
Yeah, Shopify gives you 80% of the way there for everything, right? And like even their buy now, pay later tool is that, right? It's like, it's very quick, very easy, Shopify branded, but it's really expensive, right? Like they give you every first thing you need, but then you have to, professionalize a little bit. And Jason, you said like, hey, you should be using this from the get-go. Now, I think if you're doing 1, 2, 3 million, like you're probably not going to collect. That's just the reality. You're not going to fucking turn it on, right? And then maybe you'll use the Shopify one, and then eventually you quickly outgrow that and you need a professional service, right? Because I don't think Shopify actually remits the money for you. That's like the other problem. Like you have to file with all these fucking states and do all this complicated stuff. But when you're doing that, it's better to get that done sooner rather than later, because the liability just sits there and haunts you if you ever want to exit your business. Like this is what they're going to look at. They're going to be like, show me every single state, show me when you started filing, and then we're going to run a nexus study to make sure there's no liability. That happens at every deal. Matt, you said you saw that happen before.
I just saw one last month where the final 30 days of diligence, and they had to get repriced because of sales tax liability.
Always happens. Constantly happens.
Yeah.
Because you think you have a deal, and then the tax people do their diligence, and it's going to happen. And if you at least like start clean from the beginning, you could be like, guys, we did everything right, and then you assume the risk of anything else. But yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, it just winds up in like a reps and warranties thing post deal too. Right? Yeah, but it's fine. It's part of the process. It's just in this particular case, these guys did not. They were not playing ball by the rules for a long time. So like this was a very expensive mistake that I think is a good lesson for other operators. Like Jason's right. Start early. Just do this right. Don't screw around.
Okay. And typically you can't indemnify sales tax. It just has to be a $1-to-$1 put into escrow. They're like, we think your liability is $4 million. So the $4 million is going to sit there for 6 years until either the states get it or we give it back to you or we split it. Or, I mean, if you're really smart in PE, you're just like, no, you're going to give us $6 million and we're going to pay the states. And then you just gamble that you're never going to pay the states. That's usually what private equity does. Well, sick, Sam. Look, I've heard your story. Maybe you'll come on for a full ep and tell it. But dude, you gotta ditch the SaaS shit. Start selling gummies, man. You got the best business on earth. Why are you getting into SaaS?
Yeah, I think I started off I first sold jewelry. I sold over $30 million of jewelry, but it was like kind of cheap jewelry you'd buy for Christmas. It was this very like, it wasn't drop shipping. We actually had a factory, but it looked and felt like drop shipping. And after selling $30 million of jewelry, if you turned our Facebook ads and Google ads off, you just go to zero. And so I'm like, this is like not a durable business, especially as we started having Chinese sellers going and copying us and undercutting. So I'm like, all right, what's a better business model? Selling gummies. And then even with that though, right at the end of the year, we were happy if 85% of our customers had churned. And so like, and you just always feel like you're at the whim of whatever Zuckerberg's like tinkering with the algorithm. And I think, I actually had a moment, right, where it was like in COVID, and we had all these packaging that was just stuck in like on a boat, like just circling around the port of like Long Beach. And I was just going insane. And it was, during ZERP times, and I had friends. I worked in tech before. My last job was like a decade ago as an Airbnb, and I had these friends raising at these like inflated valuations in SaaS, and I started getting jealous. I'm like, dude, you're raising a $100 million valuation with like no revenue. What am I doing? Like hustling, like just yelling at some port operator. And so I think that's why I crossed to the dark side. But, in many ways, I don't know. I feel like doing consumer is more fun in a lot of ways, at least because I have more of a kind of a growth marketing background. And so you can just do a lot more. I miss like just going into my Facebook ads and running a bunch of experiments. But it is, you definitely can build a much more, at least from a like equity value perspective, doing SaaS. And what's nice is I can turn off all my sales and marketing, and my revenue is not going to go down. So that's why we crossed the dark side. But here's the important
question: do you have to collect and remit sales tax as a SaaS company in every state?
Yes, we do collect and remit. We dog food our own product, and we serve. We actually serve SaaS companies as well now. But it's only in something like 25-ish states. But and plus some random jurisdictions. So like in Illinois, sales taxes for software is tax exempt, except in the city of Chicago randomly. Like they care about it. So
dude, look. This is just going to get more and more complex and harder. It's like, do you think the government's going to want less money going forward? They're going to.
We know that all these states, they're running huge deficits. Like they're just going to be looking to squeeze more and more dollars out. So you have to be buttoned up here because they're going to be looking for ways to get a bigger and bigger share of the online dollars. For sure.
And imagine the proposition. It's like, holy shit, it doesn't hurt my local merchants. It's like, if you're Chicago, Numeral doesn't employ any people here. Like Numeral doesn't do anything here. It's like, let's get their money. It's like, it's so easy to have like really large tax burdens on out-of-state merchants, because why the fuck not? They're not going to vote for the local politicians. They have no say here. So let's get as much money from them as we can.
Well, it's a decentralized system, right? There was no federal legislation to go handle this. Before 2018, Department of Revenue, Wyoming was just handling the little ice cream shop in Jackson and kind of all these, local small businesses. And then all of a sudden, they're managing like 10x the number of companies. And again, it was literally, this whole industry was based on a 5-4 Supreme Court decision. It's just like the whim of like one person, like all of a sudden created all of this chaos. And so there's no federal legislation around this at all. Really, it's just like one Supreme Court decision, and then 47 states reacting and passing a bunch of their own laws. It's so we live in a federal country.
Yeah, dude. And if you're a small state, like we'll pick on Wyoming again, it's like, they have a small population, so maybe a bad one. But like Minnesota, they're so aggressive with sales tax compliance, and it's because it's a ton of fucking money. like it's paying for the schools, it's paying for the bridges, and it didn't exist before 2018, and then all of a sudden you have Amazon will do $600 billion in GMV this year. It's like, you get a huge chunk of that. It's awesome. But anyway, Sam, thank you for coming here and building a great business. I actively use this product. I was on Avalara before. They let me double pay sales tax for a year. I'm still chasing that down. Sam guarantees I will not double pay using Numeral. So thank you, my man.
Thank you all for having me. It's good to be here.
See you, Sam.
All right. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of this episode. Wherever you are in the world, it is awesome to have you here. If you do not already subscribe to this show, that is my one ask, is please go to whatever platform you are watching or listening to this on. It could be YouTube, it could be Spotify, Apple, I don't care. Just go hit the subscribe button. Please pump our egos up. It helps. And before we go, one more thank you to the sponsors, Fulfill, Postscript, Northbeam, Ceres, and Rich Panel. Awesome guys running these companies. We all use them. These are our vendors. That's the only reason they're sponsors of the show. So thanks again to those people.